All right, today we're going to be talking about the biggest reasons for why an ex would want to text you after a breakup. Now, for years, this has actually been one of the most popular articles that is on my website, exboyfriendrecovery.com. For whatever reason, people really want to know the different reasons for why exes will text you after a breakup. So I figured what I would do is make a video about it to go in lieu with the article. So here's how this is gonna work. Most of the time, I would just go rapid fire and kind of go, hey, this is step one, or this is reason number one. The truth is though, I am still gonna do that, but what you need to understand is that this is not meant to be used in tandem with the strategies that we teach. This is only meant to be used to help you understand why an ex may potentially be reaching out to you. So without further ado, let's talk about some of the reasons that an ex will reach out to you. Reason number one, your ex is feeling guilt about what went down. Unfortunately, this is something that we've seen a lot of over the years, which is you had a really horrible breakup with your ex. Usually he or she broke up with you. They said some things that they really didn't mean, and they feel extreme guilt about it after the fact. So what's funny about this is a lot of times when people expect an ex to reach out to them, they're expecting an ex to reach out to them and almost always apologize, especially if you're feeling guilty. I mean, that seems like the logical approach that would happen, but that's usually not what occurs. What occurs is they'll sort of like feel you out a little bit. So if they even send you like a one-word text message of hey, they might just be sort of testing the waters to see if you're going to bite their head off. Now, what's funny is oftentimes they're sending these text messages when you have learned about and are beginning to implement the no contact rule. So what kind of happens is if they send this message and don't hear back from you, that's what really gets them angry. And that's okay, because if you've watched my video on sort of the stages that people go through when you use a no contact rule on them, they need to go through that roller coaster to realize sort of how valued they look at you as. Reason number two, loneliness may be pulling your ex down, so they look to you to pull them up. All right, so this is actually something you actually need to watch out for. And usually it's something you can't determine until you actually are out of a no contact rule and starting to communicate with them. So how does this work? Well, your ex is lonely after the breakup. As we go through breakups, we kind of miss out on the routine that we got so used to when we were dating our significant others. And sometimes you kind of realize, ooh, I made a mistake. I want that routine back. So here's sort of the tell for this one. If you notice that your ex is literally in the same routine that they were in before they broke up with you, or you broke up with them, then it's a good sign that they're lonely and they miss that routine. Hey there, real quick, I want to say that if you're new to this YouTube channel or you're trying to figure out what you should be doing to get your ex back and you're trying to learn if you even have a chance in your specific circumstance, probably the smartest thing for you to do is actually stop by our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, or take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz that can be found at exboyfriendrecovery.com. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, taking that free quiz is super easy to do. All you have to simply do is look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on the link you see there. It will take you directly to the quiz where you can fill it out and get an easy answer on what you should be doing going forward and overall what your chances look like in your specific situation. All right, so let's get you back to the video. Reason number three, your ex is bored. All right, so there's like this famous study out there right now that basically says that human beings have the attention span of a goldfish, which is like 9 seconds. I think human beings have like an attention span of like 8 seconds or something like that before they grow bored or become distracted by something else. Here's the point. It is very easy, especially in today's day and age, for your ex to grow bored. And kind of piggybacking off what I said with the previous reason, once you have stripped that routine away from your ex, they may realize all of the things that they use that routine for as a crutch. So a lot of times, this is pretty common. I remember when I was dating my wife before we got married, we would talk on the phone a lot. And while this isn't technically texting, we would talk on the phone, and I remember we would sometimes, there'd just be like these long silences after we've exhausted every possible thing to talk about. But neither of us wanted to hang up. So why? Well, I think it's because both of us realized we would be bored if we just sort of hung up. We just liked being around each other. And the same principle applies here with texting, especially if your ex used the routine that you had, the constant texting and talking back and forth with you as a crutch in the relationship to sort of stop boredom. Reason number 4, they miss you as a friend. So I hope you're seeing the common theme here, which is basically your ex sort of texts you a lot of times because they're missing the routine aspect of your relationship. You know, you wake up every single day, someone texts someone first, you're texting throughout the day, you text at night, or you get on the phone at night. That routine they must have really liked. Well, this is a little bit different because we actually find this is kind of close to being friend-zoned. Friend-zoned is kind of a hot topic nowadays because there's a lot of different reasons for why exes would friend-zone you. Off the top of my head, I think the number 1 reason is they think it's socially acceptable to do. It's socially acceptable after a breakup for you to be friends with your ex, which I think is kind of the dumbest idea possible because no matter what, someone is going to get hurt down the road. The next most common reason for why an ex would want to be friends with you is they want to have you as a backup in case this stuff with these other people don't work out. So I kind of view text messages where your ex wants to be friends with you or mentions or almost overly mentions the fact that you're friends as this reason. So here's kind of the tell. If you're talking to your ex through text and they say, you know, you're a really good friend. This is probably the reason, those are kind of the most likely reasons for why they're saying that. Reason number 5, they want to see if you have given up and moved on. Now there's actually 2 layers that you can look at this one as. So one thing we know from our research on avoidant exes and how long it takes an avoidant ex to miss you is that they're actually not going to begin missing you until they believe you have moved on. So one of the easiest ways for them to determine that is to sort of feel things out with you. And if they feel like you've moved on, and that doesn't necessarily mean moving on to someone else. That means you're completely over the breakup and have moved on with your life. Then they'll give themselves permission to sort of miss you and sort of romanticize the past. It's a really warped way of thinking, but that is literally how avoidants tend to think. And if you sat down with an avoidant and asked them, do you do this? They would deny it because they don't even realize they're doing it. It's like this subconscious thing that they just naturally sort of fall into. The second reason for why an ex would reach out to you for this reason is because they don't want you to move on. They want to see if you've moved on to someone else. And if you have moved on to someone else, you'll notice they tend to get sort of jealous. We see this happen all the time where an ex will reach out to you, and usually this is actually after you posted like a jealousy post. So we often on our Facebook group tell women and men to post a picture if they're on a date, not of the date, but of the date's arm in picture of food. So like if you're out on a date at a really nice restaurant, and you take a picture of the food and your ex's arm or this date's arm is in the picture, that's enough to kind of make your ex go, wait, who is that? And so sometimes we've seen really aggressive exes reach out to their ex and literally say like, so you were on a date. And sometimes you can do this in subtle ways. So you could be texting your ex and literally say something like, oh, I'm sorry I wasn't able to get back to you. I was at a movie with a friend. And you're very vague about the friend, but you're almost insinuating like, hey, this friend was a guy or a girl and I was on a date. And if your ex follows up and asks you and kind of fishes around, it's a good sign that they're worried about this. Reason number 6, it might be about the relationship. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this, and the best way I can explain this is by talking about open and closed loops. So a lot of times, let me give you an example of what an open loop is. Let's say I knocked on your door. Chris is here. And you're like, oh, come on into my house, Chris, or my apartment. And you let me in. And as you go to close the door, I pull you away and start asking you about this apartment and this house you have and this and this and this and this and this and this. And you're answering my questions because you're being a good host. But in the back of your mind, all you can think about is that door that's open and all of the potential possibilities about the fact of someone could come in, someone could see. What if a bug gets in? What if a rat gets in? A rat's kind of extreme, but here's my point. The fact that that door isn't closed is an open loop. it's kind of like a circle that's not all the way complete. It just annoys you. Of course, when you close the door, it feels like just everything's better. A lot of times in breakups, there is kind of this open loop with regards to no closure from either party. And as odd as this sounds, yes, this can also apply if your ex was the one to break up with you. Because if you approach our process the way we teach it, it almost seems like you're unfazed by the breakup, and that sort of creates this open loop. Because a lot of times an open loop is nothing more than your ex having an assumption about you and being proved wrong, and then they have to explore that assumption. So sometimes, especially if you were and this is usually the only case that this happens, if you are very nonchalant or non-committal about the fact that you're not even upset about the breakup, your ex will be intrigued by that and want to close the loop to understand. And our final reason, your ex may just want you back. So admittedly, this is a lot harder to determine for our clients because usually it is a timing-based situation. At first, when you communicate with your ex, usually they're not going to want you back just yet. They may be intrigued or interested or want to hear from you, but that wanting to hear from you is not the same as wanting you back. So when I say timing, usually you start to see an ex reaching out and talking to you after you've gone through our value ladder. So you've had a few dates potentially, or a few meetups, or you're on the phone call phase and they're reaching out because they want you at that point. So I think timing is the biggest thing to pay attention to here. So here's kind of the prerequisites. If your ex has gone through a value chain or a value ladder successfully, you've been able to communicate with them and build value in the text phase, in the phone call phase, or the video chat phase, or the FaceTime phase, if you've had a few meetups with them and maybe even are on the verge of getting a romantic date with them and they're the ones reaching out, it's a really good chance that they are at least considering getting back together or have at least entertained the idea. So the big thing to look out for here is timing. When is your ex reaching out to you? Now, perhaps one of the smartest things you could do if you're really interested in learning more about trying to get an ex back, or if you should even be trying to get them back, is to actually hop by our website and take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz. It's a simple free quiz that I put together that's basically helping you determine what your chances are of getting your ex back. Now, it's an approximate chance, so it's not set in stone or anything like that. Anyone who can guarantee your results is out of this world because it's impossible to do. I've yet to find a way to do that, but it can give you at least a starting point on whether or not you're kind of have a decenter chance or a not so decent chance. And if you're interested in finding out what your chances are, all you have to do is simply look in the description below this YouTube video and click the link you see there. It will take you to the quiz where we can get you taken care of and help you understand what your starting point is on this race. Also, if you haven't liked, commented, or subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. I'll see you next time.